Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today sitting down for my review of Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. This is a game I was actually quietly excited for. No existential crisis in this video. I did enjoy my time with the game, although it came with a few snags I'd like to get into. So for those who don't know, Destroy All Humans 1 came back in 2005. That's when I had originally played it, when Pandemic was just on another level. They were dropping Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, Mercenaries, Lord of the Rings Conquest, The Saboteur, as well as both Destroy All Humans video games. So what you would think is probably Matty got around to the second one, right? Wrong. As someone who claims to be a huge fan of the Pandemic Studios video games, this was my opportunity to make things right. Now on the remake level here, THQ has done a fantastic job by really polishing up the original Destroy All Humans game, making it the more ideal experience in their remake. Why is that? It's because they took mechanics from the second game and brought them back into the first. So retroactively made it much better, much more playable, and in turn, it was a highly reviewed video game. Now, when you look at Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, it didn't necessarily benefit in the same manner. It doesn't have any additional new bells and whistles outside of some minor things that we'll talk about. For those of you who are purists, that's great news. For newcomers as well, it's kind of cool because you get to experience the original game as it was. But there is that part of me that makes me feel like this was less of an effort compared to remaking the first game. So let's get into all of that, starting off with the story. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Yeah. Oh, hey, sorry. I didn't see you there. I know when you look at me, you can't help but sit there and think peak male physique. Like, I can't get more jacked than this. It would be impossible, or I'd pop like a balloon. And you may be asking, Matty, how'd you get there? Well, motivation is a key aspect in any workout regimen. But the way I stay motivated is I think of my favorite game characters, my favorite brands even, and that's what keeps me going. So I'm always listening to video game music when I'm at the gym, but what I also like is to have shaker cups that match my favorite characters, just like being Mega Man, or if you're a Thor fan, being Thor. Check that out. I love this type of stuff because I want to encapsulate in my workout what my favorite heroes do, and G Fuel has dozens upon dozens of options for you with your powders, both hydration and energy formula. But I think what's more important for those of you who are like me and are motivated by your favorite characters is they even base the hydration powders, which is my personal pick, off the characters that you love. So Spider-Man, favorite superhero of all time, got him covered right here. That is what I'm all about. It's why I'm all in on G Fuel, and I think you should be too. So if you're interested in supporting them and in turn supporting me, consider checking out the link in the description down below. Remember, health is wealth. The story here is hilarious. I'm so happy to immediately after playing Saints Row, which is a game that doesn't understand humor, it doesn't understand the platform it has and how crazy it can get, that I'm playing a game firmly rooted in the 1960s with a parody take on the Cold War and an alien invasion where your character, Cryptosporidium, was the president of the United States. Everyone's waking up from the trance. People are against the aliens now. Russia is invading the United States, and they're slowly trying to take over the hippie community because the hippie community has access to something that they want. It is wild and off the chain, and I love it. Something I'm very passionate about is that we do have a place in our industry, of course we do, for cinematic, emotional stories that do make gameplay a priority, but it's not really the focus of just having fun. And as the industry's grown, everyone's trying to make people feel things, and we're slowly losing our grip of that PS2 generation fun where you would just make fun, crazy video games. And understandably so, games are more risky nowadays, but I just feel like we need more of those on a bigger budget. So I love seeing Destroy All Humans around, and this story epitomizes exactly what I mean by crazy fun video games, because this story is just off the chain. You're gonna go all over the world because while it's an open world game, I think in today's standards, it would be best defined as open level. You're gonna go to San Francisco, you're gonna go to the UK, or the fictional version in this universe of them, and get to explore all these locales, complete missions within them. So there's not much to be said about the story on a thematic level or how it moved me. It just made me smile. And honestly, that's all you can ask for nowadays. Now, on the mechanical side of things, the first game did have dialogue choices occasionally, but it was more so based on missions that you would do, like when you were the mayor of a town, you'd have to give out a speech and say very particular things. Whereas in Destroy All Humans 2, frequently there are dialogue choices, and I don't know why this really exists. Keep in mind that when Destroy All Humans 1 came out in 2005, again, Pandemic Studios was just on another level. Destroy All Humans 2 came out a year later. Same thing you could say with Battlefront 1 in 2004 and then Battlefront 2 in 2005. It's insane what their output was, and they sadly grew too fast and ended up closing down. But yeah, this game has more focus on dialogue choices, which is interesting because I don't necessarily see the point in it. You can like poke around and ask questions, but most times you're just kind of being a douche to people, which again is hilarious. Otherwise, though, the cutscenes have been vastly improved. If you go back and look at some of the original cutscenes in the game from 2006, and then you look at what you have here in 2022, the presentation, the lighting, the camera, everything has been vastly improved, as it should be, of course. But they've also changed like the setting of missions in general. So those are some light twists and changes that OGs will experience, but otherwise don't expect anything crazy in the form of like maybe the additional content that we saw added in the first game here in the second game. Let's talk about gameplay, though. I don't think we should sit on the story for too long when this game is, again, as wild as it is. One thing I love about Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed is the pace at which they throw new stuff at you. I think with a game that understands its identity well, it needs to act upon it. What I mean by that is if it's a serious game, give me a reason to care early. If it's a fun game like this, then give me tools as soon as possible. And that's exactly what this game does. It says, here's your gadgets, here's your way to get around, here's your saucer, destroy things if you want, destroy all the humans if you'd like, or you can complete the main story. Here's a couple of side objectives. It has excellent pacing because it knows what it is and it has no BS in getting to it. It just hands you the keys to the castle and says, here, have fun. And the reward for playing the main story is you're going to continuously get new stuff to wreak havoc on the poor humans beneath you. Now, I mentioned open world. I think that could be a bit of a scary term nowadays because modern day open world means 80 hours, endless content. You're not going to do anything else for the next couple of weeks. Don't you love that? And there is a place for that. I say that as a JRPG fan that just finished Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in like almost 80 hours. I love long games, but I also like more condensed games. But I also like games with a sense of openness that can be completed within the 20-hour window. That's what Destroy All Humans 2 is. You could finish this story in about 10 hours, maybe less, and you could complete the entire open world in maybe double that, possibly less. It is a very much bite-sized experience in today's industry. While 20 hours isn't bite-sized for everyone, it is very much digestible. It's not going to soak up endless hours, and it very much is a game you can complete. It's sad we're in that kind of state now where this has to be said, but I do think it is a perk for this game that you have an open world option that you can dive into and know you'll finish this. Now, I say open world, but as I mentioned earlier, open level may be the better definition because each of these maps are big enough to be open world, but it's not on the level of like Spider-Man PS4 where it's sprawling, endless feeling, right? This is a game where you will go from map to map to map as you progress in the story. There's a total of 5. Each of them are environmentally diverse. They're absolutely beautiful. I loved exploring them, especially some of the later game maps I think are sick, but they are also packed with side content to keep you busy. One of the mission types you can do is the Cult of Arc-Udal. So I mentioned hippies earlier. You can reach out to the hippies and effectively assemble your own army by convincing them to worship Arc-Udal. It's hilarious. It really, really is. I just love that this is even a thing. There are occasional other side quests you can do around the map, but really I think the game's biggest strength is how you interact with the world beyond the mission objectives. Whether it is something as simple as blowing up everything in sight with its fully destructible environment, just destroying every erected building in sight, or doing some body snatching activities where you can actually use them as disguises. That is a really cool component of the game. For those who don't know much about the body snatching in this title, they are used in a really wise way. So if you were to use a cop, for example, and go into an area populated by cops, you could get a little bit deeper into the territory compared to if you were using a civilian disguise. Now, the difference here, it's one that I really like, is there's a bar gradually shrinking as you're in this disguise. And as you get lower and lower in the bar, you're starting to lose control and your character's animations get all wacky. You start waving around and you begin to draw attention to yourself. So you have to snatch another body if you're like on a full-on stealth infiltration mission. I love the detail behind that personally. At the end of the day, it's a simple disguise system, but the additional animation where your character just starts flopping around, that was awesome to see, that you could be spotted that way before your disguise is truly out. So you had to really act human. And it did lead to some organically hilarious moments where we all know Crypto sounds like this.
Attention, Earth creature. This planet is now part of the Furon Empire. Your benevolent masters welcome you.
But then hearing him in this hilarious disguise and having that same voice, that just, it wrote itself. They didn't need to write something funny. It was using the platform. It's funny because I'm like repeating what I'm saying in my Saints Row review, but it's actually perfect, the timing here. They used the platform they had, the tools they had, to make something organically funny. It is possible. They just let all the pieces eventually speak for themselves, and it makes for a much better video game. That said, while you are communicating with other people, you'll notice the facial animations are particularly stiff. There's some occasional pop-in as you're running around, and a lot of the character models do repeat. These are things that could have been trimmed down. I know repeating character models may be a weird complaint for Destroy All Humans. Like, most of these humans are going to be dead, and the others, it doesn't really matter because of immersion purposes. Like, come on, it's Destroy All Humans, Matty. But to me, it just shows a level of effort to make sure that you're taking over different people consistently and that you're seeing different parts of the world, and those different parts of the world feel real, right? I think that is an important component of the game, especially because, as I just said before this, when you're doing body snatching and you start to see repeating character models, it's like, why is this person who was in Bay City also here in Albion? Why is this a thing? It can end up hurting the game ever so slightly, make you pull out of the experience, ask that question, and then dive back in. So it can be slightly distracting in that regard, but otherwise, the technical state of this game is decent enough. It runs well, it looks great. It's just that when you get up close to certain things, or as you're flying around and things are loading in, that's where it does struggle a little bit. But overall, if I were to make like a really random comparison to this game between its body snatching mechanic and its wild open world and how destructible it is, how crazy you can go with it, I think of Prototype. Prototype is a game I adore, and I love one of the things about Prototype is you would grab a human, you'd absorb them, take over their body, and you'd infiltrate areas. That's kind of what body snatching is here before Prototype was actually a thing. Shout out to Prototype, by the way. Love that game. We got to see another one at some point in time. I think that series was criminally underutilized. But anyway, moving on past that, that would be my comparison to Destroy All Humans 2. And it's not one that I expected, but it certainly evoked memories I was happy to re-experience. Now, in the terms of new content here for Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, the only thing you're really going to see here is the ability to customize your saucer. Otherwise, you're not really going to see anything brand new. That is a shame because, again, it does leave you feeling like they put more effort into the first game than the second game to improve it and think beyond it. But there is a preservation aspect of me that fights against that and says, well, it's the original game now. You get to have that without any changes. And just like I say with Mass Effect Legendary Edition, hand someone Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed and go like, here you go, this is what I experienced back in 2006. So there's a power to that, but since the precedent was set in the first game, I expected more changes in the second game, and you don't really get that. But what you do get is a pretty cool progression system. So as you're going around in your saucer, you can suck up all the humans and different types of them, and you'll complete little checklist objectives in what I think is a unique way. So I've always talked negatively about checklist objectives for the last couple of years, but this is a type of checklist I can get behind. So let's say like you need 20 hippies, 5 KGB officers, and 20 civilians, and you'll go around the map and find like hot spots where they're at, and you'll start absorbing them up into your ship and use their DNA to upgrade your character, to upgrade your weapons, your gadgets, your health meter, all that stuff. This game has like a sneaky good progression system, and I gotta say, I was really about how they presented it. Just the idea of tapping into, if you will, I hate to use the term because it's too overly serious, but the theme of being an alien, right? And the idea of abducting humans like we see in the movies, and making that a true gameplay mechanic that progresses you forward. Love that stuff. So overall, Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed was a solid time. It wasn't something I was head over heels with, but it was certainly a refreshing palate cleanser, and it's one that I can recommend at its current price of $40. It feels fair to me. If it was at the $60 price tag, I thought to myself, this is one of those games I'd say, wait till it's $40. Since it starts there, I think this is a safe bet. If you're a little unsure, if you feel like, oh, there's not enough new content here, and you're just looking to re-experience the game, you can wait a little bit longer. I think you can wait till this game's in the $25, $30 threshold, and you'll truly enjoy it then. But this is a good time. It works technically, it makes use of its platform. Some of the missions can feel a little too rigid, I would say, but otherwise, it is a fun time. I really did enjoy it, and I love these smaller budget titles that understand what they're going for, what they're doing, and don't try to do, I guess, too much. Just focus on getting the little things right, which is remaking a classic game and putting it at the proper price tag of $40. So that's how I feel about Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. Are you interested in picking it up? Do you have any additional questions or thoughts? Fire away in the comments down below. I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.